Hello, everybody. I'm Anne.
And I'm Reg.
And we are two best friends who have been disgusted with dating apps and decided that there has to be a better way. So we came up with the idea, greenflagsonly.com, to talk about dating, and mostly for this episode, we're going to be talking about red flags.
Yes. Between the two of us, we have encountered quite a few red flags. And once again, for the record, we're not therapists, we're not psychologists, but we have just been down those roads a few times, and we thought we'd talk about it. We hope you find it helpful. And once again, this is not a panacea, but I think once you hear what we're talking about, you're like, yeah, I kind of relate to that, or I've seen that before.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, that sounds fair. That's our goal.
Yeah, I wish I knew then what I know now. At the time, I had no idea of I didn't even know red flags existed, and I did not know how to identify them. And I wish people talked about it more. So what are red flags? Red flags are really warning signs indicating unhealthy, manipulative, or potentially toxic traits from your partner. And ignoring these signs early on can lead to really bad things. So let's talk about some of the typical red flags. One of the first ones that's high up on my list is controlling behaviors. So this can include things like monitoring your whereabouts, isolating you from friends and families, or even dictating your decisions.
It could be as simple as, you and your partner go to the store and it's a jacket that you like. And then, do you really need that jacket?
Are you sure that looks good on you?
Exactly. So they're kind of funneling you into a box and gaslighting you at the same time. And it can become very uncomfortable. And before you know it, you're not even who you're supposed to be.
Exactly. And you look around and you've lost your allies. I mean, one of the biggest things that I experienced where they would start to plant these little seeds of doubt in your mind, like, are you sure that that person really gave you good advice? Do they have your best interests at heart? And then you get that little seed of doubt and you slowly start losing trust in your friends. And then you start avoiding them.
Yeah. And you go out to dinner later that night and you see somebody with that same jacket that you wanted.
And they look good.
And they look good. You're like, damn, I wanted that jacket.
Exactly. Another thing is now, it's so easy to track people with your phone. And I hear so many stories of people are like, oh yeah, we share locations, which in some healthy relationships is great. But when you're not comfortable doing that and they pressure you saying things like, well, I worry about you so much. And if you just share your location, then I don't have to call you 75 times every hour, or something like that. And you're like, okay, that might be a good idea. But if you're not comfortable with it, that is something that it presses your boundaries, which we're going to talk about later. That's another huge red flag, is when your boundaries are not respected.
Because, the big thing, the trending thing right now are the geotags. They'll drop one in your car or in your wallet, and you don't even know they're following you.
Oh, that's creepy.
You didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
They're not just for luggage anymore, let me tell you. People or something.
Now, I want to put one on my keys because I lose my keys all the time.
And that's fine. But,
as long as I'm the only one who has access to it. Exactly. You don't need to have access to that.
Okay.
Yeah, so controlling behaviors is something that I think creeps up slowly. And before you know it, you don't even realize it's happening. But before you know it, you've lost your allies and you feel isolated. And that's really their goal.
Mm-hmm.
Another one that is huge is disrespect and criticism. So this is things like belittling you in front of other people, making cruel jokes at your expense, and frequently putting you down. And a lot of time it's in a joking way. And when you say, hey, that wasn't nice, like, ouch, that hurt, they're like, I'm just joking.
Yeah, why be so sensitive?
Can't you take a joke?
No, I can't. Not like that, I can't.
Not I'm not sure who found that funny.
I think that that stems from a lack of self-esteem, and sometimes you have a partner that you really care for, but things have happened through their lifetime and their self-esteem is so low that they are compelled to knock you down a couple of pegs into so you don't get too high on yourself, for lack of a better phrase.
Absolutely.
And I don't think that they see that as destructive. I think that they have learned that behavior and
And they think it's funny
they think it's funny
at your expense.
at your expense. Why are you so sensitive? And you can't take a joke. Sure, I can take a joke, but not in front of everyone when you're making inappropriate remarks about things that probably shouldn't be said at all. Or if we're discussing them, they should be discussed in private.
And a lot of times they're not even true.
I know.
So, you know, I was in a relationship one time where the guy did that to my friends. He would make jokes at my expense to my friends. He'd be like, "Oh, she nags me all the time." And I'd be like, "What?" And I'd ask him afterwards, I'm like, "Do you really feel like I nag you all the time? Like, I don't think I nag you. Like, I'm not a nagger?" And he's like, "No, but I just needed something to say."
See, and see, that's the things that really drive me crazy because I believe in if you can't respect someone, then you should walk away. My grandmother used to say, if you can lay with them, I can sit with them. Now I know that's extreme,
Mhm.
but I look at it the same way. Is that I'm going to respect you. If you're saying things that I don't particularly like, I'll probably just get quiet. Finish my drink, and I'll say, yeah, see you later. But I'm not going to try to go toe for toe because I think that's tacky.
Yeah, could not agree more. Another one, lack of accountability. So this is where they blame you for their mistakes or they refuse to apologize when they have, hurt you, crossed a boundary. Just taking a real lack of accountability. And it's really hard to deal with people like that when they will not admit that, they're human. I mean, I used to have a boss that said, if I ever made a mistake, she'd say, well, if you were perfect, I couldn't afford you. So, it is human to make mistakes. And what's even more than that, it's important to make mistakes in life. I used to tell my kids, it's important to make mistakes because that's how we learn.
Now, Ann, with your schedule, we should have started this podcast weeks ago.
Oh, is this true, Reg?
No, it's not true. But it's not those type of catty remarks.
Yeah.
That's because we've had some scheduling problems, but it wasn't just Ann, it was me too. I take responsibility. We're starting this exactly when we're supposed to.
Yeah.
And we're making notes because we're still works in progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we learn as we make mistakes, we learn along the way. So that's a green flag, by the way.
Oh, okay.
It's okay to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. But really, the green flags are those who realize, hey, I made that mistake. They take accountability for it and they work on being better. It's no guarantee that they're not going to make that mistake again, but they're making effort to be better. And that is so impressive to me.
Yeah, I give 100% for people that are making an effort and you see them trying, and they may say stupid things, but that's
Yep.
okay, as long as their heart's in the right place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about another one. And this is a word that I hear all the time, gaslighting. So sometimes I hear it used and I'm like, I don't think that's what that is. So, what is gaslighting? Gaslighting is manipulating you into doubting yourself. You doubt your memories, you doubt your feelings, you can even get to the point where you start doubting what's real. And it puts them in a level of control because you start relying on them to be the source of your reality. Did that happen? Even your own feelings. If you say, hey, that hurt my feelings. Well, that shouldn't have hurt your feelings. They try to tell you that that is wrong,
Yeah.
that you're wrong for being hurt.
I know quite a few people like that. And all I can say is that some people are very long on memory. And you do have to adjust the sensitivity level as you get older, but there's some things that go beyond the pale. For example, folks, that Ann and I, we go out to dinner and a movie quite frequently. We normally kind of switch back and forth, and she'll pay once and I'll do the other. And if I were to say, well, Ann, it's been like 3 or 4 times and you happen to, whip your credit card out. What's up with that? It would be a complete distortion of what's going on. And I'm pretty sure that she wouldn't appreciate it. In fact, she's reaching across the table with a hammer right now. No, I'm just kidding. But you understand what I'm saying is that people fundamentally hate being accused of things that first of all, that they didn't do, and they have no idea what you're talking about. It kind of takes you by surprise, and then you're taken aback, and then you become defensive, and then you got a full blown situation instead of a burgeoning relationship.
Yep, absolutely. And it can be little things that really get you to start doubting yourself. For example, I had a friend one time who would say, "Oh, we're going out to dinner. Remember we talked about that? Or I told you this thing." And I'd be like, "No, I'm pretty sure we never talked about this. I would remember." When I make a commitment, it's important to me and I make a note to remember. And I'm pretty good about keeping my schedule in my head. I don't forget things. But when I do start to feel like, I'm forgetting something, I will start writing things down because it's so important to me to keep my word. And when people start questioning that, I go into a little bit of a panic. I'm like, oh my God, did I promise this thing and I didn't deliver? Like, to me, I would hate for that to happen. So they get you to start doubting yourself, like, oh, we talked about this, or you agreed to do this thing. And I'd be like, no.
No, and see, I'm the opposite because see, I can remember the Kennedy assassination, both of them.
Both of them.
So you know, and we've talked about this offline. Is that when I promise you something, I'm going to make good on at the
Above and beyond.
at the very least. If I can't do it, I'm going to say, hey, I couldn't find my leg attachment this week, so I couldn't walk with you or whatever, because I think it's important that you don't accuse people of things that you're doing and you keep your word. That that in itself, for me personally, builds a really strong relationship
Mhm.
that I can count on you when, things go south, because things will go south at some point.
At some point. I think, that relies on trust as well. And to me, trust is a huge thing. Reg and I have talked about this, you know, even in friendships, in family relationships, in friend relationships, and in relationships, trust is huge for us. For us, it's
Mhm,
huge.
mhm.
And I think to have a healthy relationship, there has to be trust. Let's talk about another one, love bombing. So, love bombing, which I didn't even realize was a red flag,
Lord.
is really rushing intimacy with excessive affection, gifts, intense affection, and it often turns into control. So, if somebody is going above and beyond to bring you gifts or to the point where it's almost uncomfortable, that could be a sign of love bombing. And I have found, because this has happened to me, a lot of times when people are doing this, they're going above and beyond to a point where you're almost uncomfortable with the attention or the gifts or the affection. It is usually because there's something lacking that they're trying to make up for, whether it's their self confidence or a lack of self-worth, and they feel that they have to buy their worth or go above and beyond to be available to show their worth. It's just not a healthy relationship, and in the end, as time goes on, it collapses.
Yes, and I can guarantee you, because I've had it happen on an occasion or two, you're going to get the, well, I did this and I did that, and that goes back to that gaslighting and guilt tripping. Well, nobody asked you to do that.
Exactly.
And in fact, in some cases, it was not appreciated because in the manner that it was presented, it was a little creepy. I mean, is that,
Yes.
what I mean?
Yes.
So, you know, that that's a tough one because, I do believe there is a thing as love in first sight. But I also believe that there are some psychopaths running around that you have to be careful of. And once
Absolutely.
again, I'm not a psychologist.
Mm.
I've just been down a lot of rough roads. Now I've learned my lesson.
Same,
Uh, and I hope that you are smarter than I am. But
same.
that's a big one right there.
It is, and it's not something I ever realized could be a problem. You're like at first you're flattered, you're flattered by the attention, you're flattered by the affection, and then it starts to creep you out a little bit, and then you're right, they start with the, "Well, I did this for you,
Mhm.
and, I feel like you're not giving enough to me." Well, you're crossing my boundary because I didn't ask you to do that thing for me, so
And before you know it, you've got a rabbit stuck to your door and, you know, it's well, not to that degree, but you know
God, I
what I'm
hope not.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about another big red flag, and that is dishonesty and secrets. So, this is hiding information, lying, and displaying suspicious phone habits. I mean, you know, this one's so obvious. It's hard to see sometimes unless you really know somebody. It's hard for me, maybe because I'm just trusting, but I have a hard time recognizing somebody's lying to me, but I do pay attention to what they say. And then if they contradict themselves later, I'm uncomfortable. Like, I don't even know how to bring it up to them. Like, "Hey, you said this thing, and now you're telling me something completely different." I'm it's really hard for me to have that conversation with somebody, to accuse somebody of flat out lying, that a lot of times I make excuses for them. "Oh, maybe they misremembered. Maybe I misremembered. Maybe," but I know I didn't. I know I didn't misremember. So, it's not only when you recognizing it is difficult for me, but also addressing it.
And, I think that's one of the reasons why we get along so well. It's because, I make the wild and cowardly jokes, but I've had enough ambles and boulders drop on my head and I dropped off cliffs. So, I observe body language. It's not just what someone says, how they say it. And then I look at their, past performance. And I'm not accusing anyone of any impropriety unless I actually see it. But I think that people are creatures of habit.
Mhm.
Is that, when they're dishonest, that they break into a general pattern. You see it the first time, you kind of brush it off. You see it the second time, you kind of go, "Oh, that's kind of weird."
Yes,
Third and fourth time, I think you should address it.
it's a
And
pattern.
it's a pattern. And you can have, in some cases, you can have thousands of dollars missing. And then you can ask, Mr. or Mrs. XYZ, did you take that money? And they will look you right in the eye and like, "No, I didn't take your money." But then you go to the bank and you see the photo of them drawing them funds out of
And then when you address it with them, they're like, "Well, you told me I could."
exactly.
And you're like,
Yeah,
gaslighting.
exactly. I never said anything. I was going to get the kids some cereal. I didn't tell you to go to the casino. But anyway, that's a whole nother episode.
Yes. So really, dishonesty and secrets in my past, I have explained it away, and I never should have done that. I definitely should see it for what it is. It is a huge red flag, neon red.
But I will say this in passing though. If you really have affection for someone, you really do go out of your way to make excuses for them.
You do.
And, you're thinking, this can't be right. There must be some logical explanation to explain an array, but sometimes it is what it is. Painful but true. And just take it from Wile E. Coyote. You want to ask those questions and you start seeing that pattern because, once again, not a psychologist or therapist, but these could be indicative or bigger problems or addictions, gambling, alcohol,
Mhm.
drugs, even sex. And, you need to protect yourself by asking those questions. As a mature adult, I think it is imperative that you ask those questions because
Absolutely.
because someone that is mature as you are is not going to get offended if you ask them those questions. They'll ask your questions and that'll be the end of it, hopefully.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you just said something there that we were talking kind of to what we were talking about earlier today. I have a habit, and I know a lot of people who do this, where they try to understand somebody's behavior. Like, I wonder why they did that. Oh, they did that because I've heard so many excuses. They had a horrible childhood. They were desperate. They were whatever the reason is. But when you start trying to understand people's behavior, it is a path to excuse it and make it acceptable. And I have done that my whole life, trying to understand people's behavior so I could make peace with accepting it.
Mm,
And when I heard that, it blew my mind because it is okay to say, hey, you did this thing. I don't find it acceptable. It's not for me. And have that. You don't have to accept other people's poor behaviors.
mhm. And we've talked about this, and I have no problem telling you that and checking your box if need be, because once again, as we grow older, we want to have those relationships blossom, but we also want to protect ourselves. We don't
Yes.
want to get blindsided by some abhorrent behavior that we are, a little bit aware of, but we ignore it to the point where it becomes a full blown problem. And I have just, made a vow, not a, New Year's resolution, but every time it pops up, I'm going to address it. And you've seen me address it.
I have. I was like, whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's good. You know what? It's a brave way to live. And more people should live like that, where if they see something, they don't excuse it away. If they're comfortable enough, address it with the person because and watch their reaction. Are they gonna gaslight you? Are they not gonna take accountability? Are they gonna lie to you? I mean, these are all red flags. It's so telling. And you should maybe start with the small things if you're worried about, hey, you were out all night last night or whatever.
Uh-huh.
You don't want to address some of the big things that are going to cause problems, but start with the small things and see their reaction. Can they take accountability? Can they hold responsibility?
Mhm.
I mean, it's telling. It's very telling, and it will save you maybe a lot of pain to later on down the
We'll
road.
have to do another episode, a whole episode on that.
Yes, I agree. Let's talk about another one. This one is also huge. They're all huge. Extreme jealousy. So this is, unwarranted accusations of infidelity or getting angry when you spend time with other people or accusing you of, flirting with the waiter or it's just seeps into everything and you find that you are walking on eggshells,
Mhm,
not making eye contact. You mute your personality
mhm,
to keep the peace.
mhm,
And you're not realizing that this is not you with the problem. You've always had the same personality that they fell in love with. It is their insecurity. Usually jealousy comes from a lack of security or a lack of feeling worthy, and they portray that on you. And it is a huge red flag.
yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss it, but once again, I'm a strong believer is that things begin and end with a conversation. Sometimes that conversation is very difficult, but you know, when I was a kid, we used to watch like Dragnet on
Yes,
Friday nights with Joe Friday, and sometimes you have to present the facts,
just the
uh,
facts.
just the facts. I think that someone that you really care about, but they have those self-esteem issues, of course, you have to continue to reinforce how much you care about them. But you can't go overboard because at some point they have to get out in the real world and have to interact with you without being, psychotic about it.
And it's not your job to fix them, Reg. You don't even have the ability to fix them. I lived my life so many times thinking, well, I can fix that. And you can't because people don't change. They
You,
don't.
you know what? And truth be told, I can't even fix myself. But what I can be is aware of the things that I need to work on. And that's where I'm at right now. And that's why we're talking to you. We're not perfect people. We
Absolutely
got
not.
things that we have to deal with on a daily basis. And I just think as you grow older, you see some mistakes that you've made and you vow, well, I'm not going to do that again. But here I am in Vegas. So,
But
but
I think you're right. Awareness is 50% of the battle, and the other 50% is trying to make the change to make yourself better.
yes. So, I try to learn something new every day. I try to be honest in word and deed. I'm not going to say that I don't come up short on a regular basis, but I'm giving the college try. And I think in any relationship worth its salt, if both individuals are working toward a common goal, that's going to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have open communication. There should not be fear in coming to your partner and saying, hey, this thing really bothered me. Like, this made me feel this way that I'm not comfortable with, and not being gaslit. Like, oh, you're crazy.
We just had an issue with production with our podcast. Is that I had sent a inflammatory email to the team about some things I didn't like. And see, I think that's healthy instead of holding it in and then, it bubbles out into something else. I'm like, I didn't like this. I got an explanation and then everything's fine.
Yeah.
But had I not said anything, I'd have been sitting there with my, lips stuck out. They're like,
Holding resentment.
Yeah. What's wrong, Reg? Nothing. You know, and
And pouting.
yes, and pouting.
Let's talk about another one. Not accepting your boundaries. So pushing past your limits after you have clearly communicated them. So this is like, I'm tired. I think I'm just going to go home and stay in tonight. And they're like, oh no, you let's go out to dinner. Let's go do this. And you're like, no, I'm not feeling so great. I think I just want to go home. And then they show up at your door. And they're like, oh, I brought you soup. You said you're sick. Or I did this for you. I did that for you. And you're like, but I just really wanted to be alone tonight.
And I'm never going to call someone out by name on this show. All I can say is that in my recent experience, I've encountered an individual like that always had to do something. And if you didn't want to do that, then, there was something wrong with you.
Yeah.
For me, sometimes I just like sitting in my underwear and socks watching the baseball game. I don't want to go out and deal with anything or anyone. I think that's healthy. And I didn't mind that this individual went out and did whatever they did, but when I wanted to stay home, it seemed to be a problem.
Yeah.
And we are no longer together. I'll just say that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I do appreciate about you is you do respect my boundaries. Like, I have made it very clear I'm not watching cartoon movies.
That's true.
And you've never said, hey, let's go watch this cartoon movie. You just go watch it by yourself. So you respect my boundary.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate it.
Because you're a full-grown woman. I don't have to coerce you to do something. If it's something that you want to do, nobody tells Ann what to do.
Nope.
If you want to do it, this woman likes to go up to the North Pole and observe polar bears. See, I'm not going to get within like 5 miles of a bear, much less 500 feet like she does. But you know what? To each his own. I think that makes for a great relationship is that you have mutual interests and then you have interests that, if she likes to collect stamps and watch bears, hey, who am I to say that she's wrong? But I'm not doing either one of those.
Yeah. Okay, just to be clear, I don't collect stamps.
Okay, all right.
Yep. So, it is normal to have boundaries. It is normal to know that what you're comfortable doing and not doing, and your partner should respect that.
Okay, so we are just about out of time. We appreciate that you're listening to us blather and our discussions on our relationships. And we hope that you like what you hear. You can find a copy of this podcast on our website at greenflagsonly.com. If you want to be a guest on our podcast, there's information on the website to show you how to become our guest. And we would love to have you on the guest because, we don't want to just talk about ourselves. We want to talk about you. So take a look. We also have a few interesting commercials that we put together we think that you would enjoy. And as we continue to develop this product, we'll have recipe ideas, date ideas. Ann and I have traveled all over the world. We will be showing little video clips of places that we've been, because maybe you've got that special person or your 50th anniversary is coming up and, you want to go to Egypt or someplace exotic.
See polar bears?
Yeah, even polar bears. But that is what we hope to provide you. So thank you for your time, and we hope that you will tune in next time on Green Flags Only. I'm Reg.
I'm Ann.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. You can listen to our talks with the best friends for free. To hear the talks with our guests and have access to additional bonus episodes, please subscribe to Green Flags Only on Patreon. If you're interested in being a guest on Green Flags Only, we are excited to meet you. Please visit our website at greenflagsonly.com to get started, or call the Green Flags Only hotline at 702-550-9368. And thank you for listening again to Green Flags Only.